Alright guys, so I've got another amp review for you today. This is the Monoprice Stage Right 30 watt tube amplifier. Now I did an unboxing video of this amplifier recently. It looked pretty cool then, but today I want to dive in and see if it sounds as good as it looks. Let's check it out. Okay guys, so like I mentioned in the beginning there, this is a 30 watt tube amplifier, all tube, and it's a head of course. Now the way this is set up, you've got the head and you also have this cabinet here. Now these can be purchased separately, but you can also get them as sort of a half stack combination like I have here. Now this amp is from the Stage Right series and this is made by Monoprice. Now Monoprice makes a lot of really cool stuff already. They make a lot of cool affordable guitars and even some tube combo amps, but this is kind of new territory for them because they've been a company that has really specialized in more entry-level equipment, but they've really upped their game recently and started producing some higher quality, higher spec products like this one. Right out of the gate here, I think the coolest thing about this amplifier is how usable it is, and what I mean by that is that it's a 30 watt tube head. It's real easy to get amplifier, like more amplifier than you need. So many tube amplifiers, 100 watts, 120 watts, even 200 watt tube amplifiers, you're almost never going to be in a situation where you need that much power. I've talked about this before, but usually if you're playing a stage that is big enough where you would actually need to have the amplifier that loud, then there's going to be a PA there and you're going to be miking the amplifier anyway, in which case the sound guy is going to want you to turn down because he doesn't want the stage volume to be too high. So realistically, once you get past 50 watts, maybe 60 watts, you know, with a few exceptions, you're almost never going to be in a situation where you're going to turn the amp, you know, past 5 or 6 on the volume knob, unless you're using a power attenuator or something like that. But an amp like this, 30 watts, and with all the other specs it has, is really usable. I mean, you're going to be able to use this amp at its full potential, full capacity, very often, regardless of what you're doing. Now, aside from just the power rating of this amplifier, the other really cool features of it is the fact that it has an effects loop, and you can also use the effects loop as a line out if you want to run a direct signal out of the amplifier. You can also use a variety of different speaker cabinets with this amplifier because you can change the impedance rating on the back and so forth. Now also, this amplifier comes with a foot switch, so it lets you toggle the reverb, which is built into the amplifier, the reverb off and on, and it also lets you do channel switching. Now the controls on this amplifier are pretty standard. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with controls like this, but just the same, let's take a look at it here. You've got two inputs, a high gain and a low gain input. This is just, you know, how much the signal level is going into the front of the amp. Over here, we've got a clean volume. You've got a bright switch right here, which you can turn off and on. You've got the gain and the overdrive volume for the overdrive channel. You've got the channel select right here. And then this here is your EQ section, bass, middle, treble. Now over here you have a dedicated reverb control, and like I said, you can toggle that off and on with the foot switch. And down on the end here you've got a tone control. To me, when I use this, it basically sounded like a presence control. It sort of had a pretty big effect on the sound of the mid-range of the amplifier. Then down at the end here you've got just the standard power and standby switches. Now one thing that jumped out to me as I used the amplifier is just all of the controls here. All the pots feel really smooth. The switches, these are really heavy-duty switches, very satisfying. Let's listen to this. That's a good switch right there. Now one thing that is maybe a little bit divisive about this amplifier, I've heard some other people talk about. I actually was watching recently another YouTuber who reviewed this amplifier, a guy named Darrell Braun, and he was talking about the reflective faceplate on the front of the amplifier. It looks really cool, but it does actually make it sort of hard to see the print, you know, the labels, right, that tell you what each control does. Personally, I'm the kind of person, I will sacrifice a little practicality for a little more cool factor, so I like that on this amplifier, but I know some people don't really like the reflective mirror finish on the front of the control panel there. Now, as far as the guts of this amplifier, you've got 4 EL84 tubes for the power section, then you've got 3 12AX7 preamp tubes. They're very accessible, just, you know, you can, if you wanted change them up. You could take this front plate off or the back plate, a few screws, and they come off there. So if you wanted to swap out the tubes at some point in the future, which is always kind of fun, especially the preamp tubes. Okay guys, so obviously there's some more specs to go over. I do want to talk about the speaker cabinet, which is really cool, in a second. But real quick guys, if you enjoy videos like this, affordable guitars, affordable amplifiers, and so forth, and you have not already subscribed, please consider subscribing right now. Alright guys, so I've shot some footage. I took this amp out to one of the local rehearsal studios so I could really crank it up. So I recorded some footage out there so we can listen to how it sounds. Let's check that out. Alright guys, so like I said, that footage I shot out at a rehearsal studio so I could, properly crank this thing up. I really like the sound of the amplifier. I mean, it responds like a classic tube amplifier should. The more you turn it up, the better it sounds, right? And also, the amplifier, it has a sound that is, again, very sort of usable, very user-friendly. It's not too extreme tone-wise one way or the other. In particular, I really liked the clean sounds and these sort of mid-gain sounds, sort of crunch sounds. It's an amplifier that's very responsive to your playing and lets you kind of interact with it in a lot of ways. Alright guys, now I also really want to talk about the speaker cabinet here. One of the many cool things about the speaker cabinet is that it's made of plywood. It's not particle board or anything like that. Plywood not only makes the cabinet stronger, some would argue that it makes the cabinet sound better, more resonant, and the other thing is it makes the cabinet lighter. Sometimes people associate weight with quality, but when it comes to speaker cabinets, particle board cabinets actually weigh a lot more than plywood cabinets do. So when you're hauling this thing to your gig, it's not going to tire you out before you even get on stage. Okay, now there's a couple other really cool features about the speaker cabinet that I should mention. One is, of course, the speaker itself. This is a Celestion Vintage 30. If you guys have watched the channel in the past, you probably know that that is my favorite speaker. I have a 4x12 with vintage 30s, I have a 2x12 with vintage 30s, and now I have a 1x12 with vintage 30s, so I think my collection is pretty complete. The last thing I want to mention about the cabinet is the fact that on the back input jack, or the back input plate I should say, you have an input and an output. So you can actually slave another cabinet to this one if you want to run multiple cabinets off the one output jack on the amplifier. Now, compared to some of the other Monoprice products, this one is actually quite a bit more expensive. I mean, you know, some of the guitars and some of the other amplifiers are down around the $200 to $300 range. This amp here, this combination of the speaker cabinet and the head is about $600. It's like $599 or $649 right in there. Now, like I said, you can buy these separately. You don't have to buy them together. And you might be thinking like, okay, well, 600 bucks. I mean, I can get, you know, some other brand name used amplifier for the same amount of money. But I think the thing you really have to look at here is this is not an amplifier that's copying another brand. It's just like a knockoff version of some popular brand. They've really put some careful thought into making this a very usable amplifier. The power rating and the fact that you can use it with a lot of different speaker cabinets, it has the effects loop, it has the line out, it includes a foot switch, 2-channel amplifier, all this stuff. It's the kind of tube amp that you can really use in any kind of situation. So I think really just the overall quality and the versatility of the amplifier is what you're getting when you pay for this amplifier. Alright guys, but I would love to know what you think about this amplifier and really any of the other Monoprice stuff if you've used some of it out there. So go ahead and leave your comments in the comments section below. It's helpful for me and it'll be helpful for the other people watching. As always guys, I'll put links for all this stuff down in the video description below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon.